As the night unfolds, let your mind relax and drift into the story of the mighty Nemean Lion, a beast of incredible power, once feared across the land. Now its legend lives on in the stars. Relax as we journey through the tale of this fierce creature, with a voice carefully selected to calm your mind. If you're ever looking for stories to help you fall asleep, make sure to check out my channel, where you'll find the most unique and thrilling mythic stories you will never forget. The Nemean Lion, a colossal beast whose skin could not be pierced by any weapon, lived in the mountain valley of Nemea, between Cleonae and Phlius. This fearsome creature was the offspring of Typhon and Echidna, or according to other accounts, of Orthros and Chimaera. The lion wreaked havoc upon the local population, its terror stretching over the lands of Tretos, Apesas, and Nemea. Its hide was impervious to all weapons, making it a deadly and nearly unstoppable force of nature. As its reign of terror continued, King Eurystheus, ruler of Tiryns, ordered the hero Heracles to slay the lion as the first of his 12 labors. The task seemed impossible, but Heracles, ever determined, set out to accomplish what seemed an insurmountable challenge. Upon arriving at Cleonae, he was welcomed by a poor man named Molorchus, who was preparing a sacrifice to the gods. Heracles, however, persuaded him to delay the offering for 30 days, promising that he would return victorious from his battle with the lion. In case he did not, Heracles instructed Molorchus to perform the sacrifice to him as a hero. Time passed, and as Heracles had not yet returned, Molorchus began preparations for the sacrifice. But just as he was about to offer the hero's tribute, Heracles appeared, victorious and triumphant, dragging the mighty lion behind him. The hero and Molorchus then offered a sacrifice to Zeus Soter, giving thanks for Heracles' success. Heracles' victory had come not without great effort. After struggling with the beast, his club and arrows proving ineffective against the lion's invulnerable hide, Heracles devised a clever strategy. He blocked one of the entrances to the lion's den, preventing the beast from escaping, and entered the cave through another. With unmatched strength, he wrestled the beast and strangled it with his bare hands, overcoming it in a battle of pure physical might. According to some versions of the story, the battle did not take place within the cave, but in the open air, where the lion was even more dangerous. The struggle was fierce, and Heracles is said to have lost a finger during the fight. The lion, though mighty, was no match for the strength of the hero, and Heracles' victory was complete. After killing the lion, Heracles skinned its hide, a task that was no less difficult than defeating the beast itself. He fashioned the lion's pelt into a cape, which became one of his most iconic symbols, and wore it as a testament to his triumph. The Nemean lion's hide, impervious to weapons, became a symbol of the hero's own strength and invulnerability. Heracles then carried the dead lion on his shoulders back to Eurystheus. Upon seeing the creature, Eurystheus was filled with fear, awestruck by Heracles' incredible power. In his terror, the king fled, instructing Heracles to report his deeds outside the gates of the city from that point forward, unwilling to face the hero's overwhelming strength in person. In some versions of the myth, the Nemean lion's hide was later placed among the stars by Hera, transformed into the constellation Leo, a reminder of the beast's ferocity and the hero who defeated it. The tale of Heracles and the Nemean lion was thus not only a story of great physical strength, but also a demonstration of cleverness and determination. Heracles, with his unparalleled abilities, triumphed over a foe that no other hero could hope to defeat, further solidifying his reputation as one of the greatest heroes of Greek mythology. The Nemean Lion, a monstrous creature sired by Typhon, wreaked havoc in the valley of Nemea. It was a beast of unparalleled power, with a hide that could not be pierced by any weapon. Its reign of terror over the land, preying upon the local population, was a challenge that no one could overcome. The creature was a terrifying force, one whose strength and invulnerability seemed unmatched. The task of slaying the Nemean Lion was assigned to Heracles, the mighty son of Zeus, as the first of his 12 labors. It was a labor that would test not just his strength, but his cleverness and determination. Upon arriving at the land of Nemea, Heracles sought out the beast, and after a vain attempt to defeat it with arrows, realizing that the lion's skin was impervious to even the sharpest weapon, he resorted to his might. Armed with nothing but his own strength, he pursued the lion into a cave where it sought refuge. Heracles, determined to complete his task, blocked one of the entrances to the cave, trapping the beast inside. With no means of escape, the lion fought fiercely, but Heracles was relentless. In a battle of raw strength, the hero wrestled the lion and strangled it with his bare hands, slowly squeezing the life out of the massive creature. The beast, though mighty, could not match the strength of Heracles. Once the lion was dead, Heracles skinned its hide, a difficult task given the creature's invulnerability. The skin, impervious to all weapons, became a symbol of Heracles' strength and a part of his iconic armor. The hero then draped the lion's skin over his shoulders, wearing it as a trophy, a reminder of his triumph. The skin became one of his most distinctive features, marking him as the man who had conquered the impossible. After slaying the beast, Heracles carried the lion's corpse back to Eurystheus, the king who had assigned him the labor. When Eurystheus saw the dead lion, he was struck with fear, amazed by the hero's strength and the impossibility of his feat. The king, terrified by the sight of the lion's massive form draped over Heracles' shoulders, fled in fear, ordering that from that point onward, the hero report his deeds outside the gates of the city. This first labor of Heracles was a significant moment in the hero's journey, one that demonstrated both his physical prowess and his ability to overcome seemingly impossible challenges. The Nemean Lion, a beast whose power and invulnerability made it an unbeatable foe, was vanquished by Heracles' sheer force of will and strength. This labor not only set the stage for the rest of the 12 tasks, but it also marks the beginning of Heracles' legacy as one of the greatest heroes in Greek mythology. The lion's hide, worn by Heracles, became a symbol of his victory, an emblem of his triumph over the impossible. The story of the Nemean Lion was told and retold, from the early poetic fragments of Bacchylides to the accounts in the works of later writers like Theocritus and Pseudo-Apollodorus. It became a key part of the mythological tradition, illustrating the heroism of Heracles and his ability to confront and conquer the most fearsome of foes. The Nemean Lion, once a terror of the land, was transformed into a symbol of strength and heroism, forever tied to the legend of Heracles. In some versions of the myth, Hera, the queen of the gods, is said to have sent the lion to Nemea to plague the land as a punishment for Zeus's actions. Hera's wrath was well known, and she often sought to make life difficult for the children born of her husband's infidelities. In this case, the lion was sent to trouble the people of Nemea, to make life even more difficult for Heracles, who was already suffering under the weight of his labors. Hera's anger and jealousy led to the creation of many challenges for Heracles, but in the end, it was this very challenge that proved to be the first of many victories for the hero. Heracles' triumph over the Nemean Lion not only demonstrated his incredible strength, but also set the stage for his further challenges. The myth of the Nemean Lion resonated throughout the centuries, inspiring poets, artists, and storytellers. Its themes of strength, perseverance, and overcoming the impossible were universally compelling, and the story became a defining moment in the larger narrative of Heracles' 12 labors. The lion's invulnerability, the hero's strength, and the eventual victory over the beast became a metaphor for the challenges that everyone faces in life. Just as Heracles overcame the seemingly insurmountable challenge of the Nemean Lion, so too can people find the strength within themselves to overcome their own obstacles. In the sky above, the lion's form was eventually placed among the stars, transforming into the constellation Leo. Hera, whose anger had set the events of the labor in motion, gave the lion a final place of honor in the heavens, where it would be remembered for eternity. The Nemean Lion, once a terror of the land, became a permanent part of the night sky, forever a reminder of Heracles' strength and his ability to conquer even the most fearsome of foes. Through the story of the Nemean Lion, Heracles' legacy was solidified, and his name was forever linked to the greatest feats of heroism in Greek mythology. The monster, a fearsome lion with a coat that no arrow could pierce, stalked the valley of Nemea, leaving destruction in its wake. No one could say where it came from, but many guessed that it had been sent by the gods as a punishment for the people of Argos, who had angered the immortals. The lion's rampage was relentless, especially tormenting the Bembenaeans, who lived near its range. Their lands were devastated by the beast's wrath, and all who lived there trembled at the thought of it. This terror was the first of the 12 labors that Eurystheus, the king of Tiryns, had assigned to Heracles. The king had ordered Heracles to kill the beast, which was more than a mere creature. It was a force of nature, a monster that no man had yet been able to defeat. Armed with his bow and quiver full of arrows, and his trusty staff in hand, Heracles set out to face the lion. The day was hot, and the sun hung high in the sky as he moved through the terrain, his eyes scanning the land for any sign of the beast. Heracles searched high and low, moving across the land, hoping to catch sight of the lion before it noticed him. He crept through the thick-leaved mountainsides, his senses alert, but the lion was nowhere to be found. He searched the land for any signs of the creature, but the land was eerily quiet. No farmers were working their fields, no men tending to their oxen. It seemed that the lion's terror had silenced the entire region. Fear gripped the people, and they all stayed hidden in their homes. Heracles, undeterred, pressed on. He did not hesitate or turn back. He continued his search, driven by the task before him. The lion was elusive, but Heracles was determined to find him and end the beast's reign of terror. As the day wore on, the sun began to set, and Heracles was beginning to lose hope when, at last, he spotted the lion. The beast had made its way to a cave, its bloodied mane and mouth dripping with the remnants of its latest kill. It was a terrifying sight, the creature's body a testament to its ferocity. The lion's chest heaved with each breath, its glowing eyes scanning the area, alert to any disturbance. Heracles knew this was his chance. He quickly hid himself in the shade of some bushes, waiting for the right moment to strike. He could hear the lion's heavy breathing, the sound of its paws scraping the ground as it moved closer to him. With great care, Heracles drew his bow, fitted the string to its curved horns, and notched the first arrow. He was ready. As the lion moved past, he fired. The arrow flew true, but it struck the lion's thick hide and bounced harmlessly off, falling uselessly to the ground. The lion, startled by the attack, whipped its head up, its eyes scanning the area, searching for the source of the threat. The beast snarled, showing its wicked teeth, furious that someone had dared to challenge it. Heracles, frustrated by the failure of his first shot, quickly readied a second arrow. He loosed it with all his might, hoping it would pierce the lion's chest and end the battle. The arrow struck. But to Heracles' dismay, the weapon was no match for the lion's invulnerable skin. It bounced off and fell to the ground, useless once more. The pain of failure stung deep in Heracles' chest, but he did not give up. He had come too far to let the beast escape now. The lion's fury grew as it lashed its long tail and turned toward the hero, its muscles tensing for the inevitable battle. The lion's body arched, its spine bending like a bow, and with a sudden, terrifying leap, it sprang toward Heracles, its claws extended and its jaws gaping. The battle was now upon him, and there was no turning back. With a roar, the lion landed on the ground before Heracles, and the two collided in a fury of claws and teeth. Heracles fought with all his strength, but the lion's thick hide and powerful limbs made it a formidable opponent. Heracles could not afford to let the beast overpower him. He had to think quickly. The fight was a struggle of sheer strength, with the lion pushing against him, its jaws snapping dangerously close to his face. Heracles knew that no weapon would work against the lion's hide, so he had to rely on his own might and wits. The lion snarled and swiped at him, but Heracles dodged its claws and grabbed hold of the creature's thick mane. With a powerful twist, Heracles wrapped his arm around the lion's neck, choking it with his own strength. He squeezed tighter and tighter, using every ounce of his power to strangle the beast. The lion struggled violently, but Heracles would not let go. The battle raged on, but slowly, the lion's strength began to fade. Its movements grew weaker, and soon, with one final effort, Heracles squeezed the life out of the great beast, choking it into submission. At last, the lion was dead. Heracles had triumphed over the invincible monster, but the victory had not come easily. He stood over the lion's fallen body, breathing heavily, his muscles aching from the battle. The lion, once a terror of the land, was now just a carcass. Heracles knew what he had to do next. He began to skin the lion, a task that would take time and effort, but it was necessary. The lion's hide, which had been impervious to all weapons, would now be a symbol of his victory, a reminder of his strength and determination. Heracles carefully worked to remove the skin, making sure not to damage it. The lion's pelt would become one of his most recognizable traits, a cloak of power that he would wear with pride. After finishing the task, Heracles took the lion's skin and draped it over his shoulders, a symbol of his triumph. He made his way back to Eurystheus, the king who had given him this impossible task. The king, upon seeing the lion's skin, was struck with fear and awe. Heracles had done the impossible, and the king, terrified by the hero's strength, fled in fear. From that day forward, Heracles was tasked with completing the remaining labors, but the memory of the Nemean Lion would never leave him. It would forever be a symbol of his courage and strength, a reminder that even the most fearsome of monsters could be defeated with enough determination and power. The mighty lion, a creature of unparalleled strength and ferocity, lurked in the shadows of the valley of Nemea, striking fear into all who came near. Its skin was impervious to all weapons. No iron, bronze, or stone could pierce it. This fearsome beast was the terror of the land, often hiding in the cleft of the Tretos mountain, a place known for its peculiar split at the base. There, the lion would lie in wait, ready to strike at any unfortunate soul who wandered too close. Heracles, the great hero, was tasked with the impossible, to slay this invulnerable creature. His journey to Nemea marked the beginning of his 12 labors, and this task would prove to be the most daunting. Armed with only his club, his bow, and his strength, Heracles set out to confront the lion. As he ventured into the mountain's shadow, the air heavy with the scent of fear, he spotted the lion at last. The beast, with its massive mane and gleaming eyes, was the embodiment of terror. Heracles, unflinching, raised his bow and fired his first arrow, hoping it would pierce the lion's hide. But the arrow bounced off the thick, invulnerable flesh. The lion, undeterred, turned toward him with a snarl, its eyes burning with rage. Heracles, realizing that no weapon could harm the beast, discarded his bow and club and prepared for a fight that would require every ounce of his strength. The lion, sensing his challenge, lunged at him, its claws slashing through the air with deadly precision. Heracles dodged and swung his club, aiming for the beast's head. The club struck hard, but instead of crushing the lion's skull, it shattered the wild olive wood, useless against the beast's power. The lion staggered, momentarily dazed by the impact, and Heracles saw his chance. With the lion reeling from the blow, he quickly moved in, grabbing it by the scruff of its neck with his powerful hands, pulling it close to him. Heracles, using all his strength, began to choke the lion, squeezing tighter and tighter until the beast's movement slowed. But the lion was not so easily subdued, and it thrashed wildly, trying to break free from the hero's grip. Heracles, undeterred, pressed his feet against the lion's hind legs, holding it down with his knees and using his strength to lift the massive creature. Slowly, the lion's resistance faded, and its body grew limp in Heracles' powerful arms. With a final effort, he squeezed the last breath from the creature, sending its spirit to the underworld. As the lion fell to the ground, Heracles knew that his task was far from over. The skin of the lion, its only true prize, was not easily removed. It was as impenetrable as the beast itself, and Heracles had no tools with which to strip it from the animal's body. His first instinct was to use a knife, but none was available, and no stone or iron would work. In a moment of inspiration, a god whispered to him the solution: use the lion's own claws to cut through the thick hide. With swift hands, Heracles drew the claws across the skin, carefully slitting it free from the lion's body. It was a grueling process, but in the end, the lion's hide was his. He draped the massive pelt around his shoulders, its weight a symbol of his victory. The hide, with its unparalleled toughness, would serve as his shield in future battles, protecting him from harm. The task was complete, and the once feared lion, who had brought so much suffering to the land, was no more. Its death marked the first of many victories for Heracles, and the skin would become one of his most recognizable features. Heracles, now wearing the lion's pelt, made his way back to the city, his task complete. The people of Nemea had long suffered under the beast's reign of terror, and Heracles' victory brought them relief. The once feared monster was gone, and the land was safe once more. The lion's death was not only a personal victory for Heracles, but it also symbolized the triumph of human strength and will over the forces of nature. No matter how impossible the task, Heracles had proven that determination, courage, and raw strength could overcome any challenge. His battle with the Nemean Lion would become a legendary tale, a testament to the hero's unyielding spirit and unmatched might. As the lion's carcass was left behind, its body became a symbol of the hero's triumph, and its hide, now worn by Heracles, was a constant reminder of the first great labor that he had completed. In the years that followed, the lion's story would be retold by poets, bards, and storytellers, a reminder of the hero who had faced down the impossible and emerged victorious. The lion, once a terror of the land, had been brought low by a single man, and the hero's strength would be remembered for generations to come. The story of Heracles and the Nemean Lion became one of the most celebrated myths in Greek mythology, inspiring future generations to believe in their own strength and the power of perseverance. But the lion's legacy did not end with its death. The goddesses themselves, taking notice of Heracles' strength, placed the lion among the stars, turning it into the constellation Leo. There, it would remain for eternity, forever reminding the world of the great hero who had slain it. The lion, a symbol of terror and death, was transformed into a symbol of courage and strength, a tribute to the hero who had triumphed over it. And so, the Nemean Lion, once a scourge to the land, was forever etched into the heavens, marking the first of many challenges that Heracles would face and overcome. In the ancient land of Nemea, nestled between towering mountains, the fearsome Nemean Lion was a creature of unimaginable strength and terror. The beast had a hide that was impervious to weapons, rendering it nearly invincible to any who dared challenge it. It was said that the lion's reign of terror caused great suffering for the people living near the area, as it preyed upon their flocks and struck fear into the hearts of all who crossed its path. The beast was so fierce that no one dared venture into its domain. Its legend grew with every passing day, as its ferocity was unmatched, and its presence sent a wave of dread throughout the region. The lion made its home in a cave, hidden deep within the mountain pass known as Tretos, a narrow gap between the hills where no one could escape its wrath. There, it would rest after gorging on its prey, leaving behind a bloody trail of devastation. As the terror of the Nemean Lion continued to spread, a hero was called upon to end its reign of destruction. Heracles, the mighty son of Zeus, was tasked with the challenge of slaying the beast as the first of his 12 labors. Armed with nothing but his strength, his bow, and his club, Heracles set out to confront the lion. He arrived in Nemea and began his search, hoping to find the beast before it found him. But the lion was elusive, and for days Heracles could find no trace of it. He searched the hills and valleys, keeping a keen eye out for any sign of the monster, but it seemed to vanish into the very landscape itself. The people of the land had long since abandoned their homes, too afraid to step foot outside, knowing the lion could strike at any moment. Finally, after days of searching, Heracles spotted the lion near its lair. The beast, with its massive size and thick, impenetrable hide, stood as a towering figure against the backdrop of the mountains. It was a sight to behold, its sharp teeth gleaming in the sunlight, and its massive paws leaving deep prints in the earth. Heracles, undaunted by the creature's formidable appearance, prepared for battle. He drew his bow and fired an arrow at the beast, but the weapon rebounded off the lion's thick hide, leaving no mark. The lion, undeterred, snarled and turned to face the hero. Heracles, realizing that no weapon could pierce the beast's skin, discarded his bow and took up his club. He swung it with all his might at the lion's head, but again the blow seemed ineffective as the club shattered upon impact with the lion's skull. The beast staggered, stunned for a moment, but quickly regained its senses and lashed out at the hero with its deadly claws. Heracles, his heart pounding, knew that this battle would not be won by brute strength alone. He had to outwit the lion, to use his cunning and resourcefulness if he hoped to prevail. The lion, infuriated by the hero's continued resistance, leaped at him, its powerful body crashing into Heracles with a force that nearly knocked him off his feet. But the hero was quick, dodging the lion's attack and grabbing the beast by the neck. Using all his might, Heracles wrapped his arms around the lion's throat and began to choke it, squeezing with everything he had. The lion struggled, its powerful body writhing in an attempt to break free, but Heracles held fast. Slowly, the lion's resistance faded, and with one final mighty effort, Heracles squeezed the life from the beast, its body going limp in his arms. With the lion now dead, Heracles faced the difficult task of removing its skin. The creature's hide was as tough as iron, and no knife or tool could cut through it. But in a moment of inspiration, Heracles remembered the lion's own claws and used them to slit the thick pelt. It was a laborious process, but eventually the lion's hide was removed and draped over the hero's shoulders. The skin, now a symbol of his victory, would serve as a powerful reminder of his strength and determination. As he stood over the lion's body, the hero knew that he had accomplished something that no other man could have done. The beast, once a terror of the land, had been vanquished by the might of Heracles, and its reign of destruction had come to an end. Heracles carried the lion's skin back to the city, where he presented it to King Eurystheus. The king, upon seeing the massive pelt, was struck with awe and fear, realizing the true power of the hero before him. The Nemean Lion had been a challenge unlike any other, and yet Heracles had emerged victorious. The lion's skin, now worn by the hero, became one of his most iconic symbols, a testament to his strength and courage. The lion's legacy, once one of fear and terror, was transformed into a symbol of Heracles' victory and the hero's indomitable spirit. In the years that followed, the legend of the Nemean Lion would be retold across Greece, and its story would be immortalized in paintings and statues. Among the offerings dedicated at Olympia, the scene of Heracles strangling the lion was depicted in various forms, immortalizing the hero's triumph for generations to come. In one of the statues, Heracles was shown as a young boy, already demonstrating the strength and courage that would define him throughout his life. The lion, once a feared monster, became a symbol of the hero's greatness, and its story was passed down from one generation to the next, inspiring all who heard it to believe in the power of perseverance and strength. As the tale of the Nemean Lion continued to be told, it became a reminder of the hero's greatest challenges, a symbol of the trials that would shape his destiny. The lion's skin, which Heracles wore as a cloak, was not just a piece of armor. It was a badge of honor, a mark of the hero's incredible feat, and a symbol of his ability to conquer even the most fearsome of foes. The lion's legacy, once one of terror and devastation, was forever changed by the strength of Heracles, who had transformed it into a symbol of triumph. And so, the Nemean Lion story, intertwined with that of the hero, lived on, a legend that would never fade from the annals of Greek myth. The tale of the Nemean Lion, a creature whose terror haunted the land of Nemea, is one of the most famous in all of Greek mythology. The lion, born from the moon, had a hide that no weapon could pierce. It roamed the mountainside, hunting and killing, its presence a constant nightmare for the people living nearby. The beast's reign of terror was only ended when a great hero was called upon to face it. This hero, a son of Zeus, was tasked with slaying the lion as the first of his 12 labors. With a heart full of determination, the hero ventured into the land of Nemea, where the lion was known to reside. The lion made its lair in a cave, a cleft in the mountains, where it could rest after its vicious hunts. It was said that the lion was fed by the moon goddess herself, and with its supernatural strength, it ravaged the land, causing widespread devastation. The people of Nemea lived in constant fear, and no one dared to challenge the beast, for all who tried had met a grisly fate. When the hero arrived in Nemea, he was determined to end the lion's terror. Armed with only his club and his bow, he ventured into the mountains, hoping to find the beast and bring an end to its reign. The hunt was long, and the hero searched for days, finding no trace of the lion. It was as if the creature had disappeared into the very earth itself. The hero knew that time was of the essence, for the longer the lion was allowed to live, the more destruction it would cause. His search led him to a narrow pass, a place where the lion had been seen before. The cave where the beast hid was nearby, and the hero knew that this was his chance. As he approached the cave, he readied his bow and fired an arrow into the darkness. But the arrow was no match for the lion's thick, impenetrable hide. It rebounded harmlessly off the beast, leaving no mark. The hero, undeterred, realized that no weapon would work against the lion. His only option was to confront it with his strength. The hero discarded his bow and club and prepared for the fight of his life. He crept quietly toward the cave, his eyes fixed on the entrance where he hoped to catch a glimpse of the beast. As he neared, the lion emerged, its massive form filling the entrance of the cave. The beast's eyes burned with fury, its sharp teeth bared in a snarl. It was a sight to behold, a creature of such size and power that it seemed unstoppable. But the hero was not afraid. With a roar, the lion lunged at him, its claws slashing through the air. The hero dodged the attack, narrowly avoiding the lion's deadly paws. He grabbed the beast by the neck and, using all his strength, began to squeeze. The lion struggled violently, but the hero held on, his grip tightening around the creature's throat. The lion thrashed and roared, but the hero did not let go. Slowly, the beast's movements began to slow, its strength fading as the hero choked the life out of it. After a fierce struggle, the lion went limp in the hero's arms. With the lion now dead, the hero faced the difficult task of removing its hide. The creature's pelt was impervious to all weapons, and the hero had no tools with which to cut through it. But in a moment of inspiration, he realized that the lion's own claws would serve as the perfect tool to remove its hide. Using the lion's claws, he carefully sliced the pelt from the beast's body, a task that required great skill and strength. Once the skin was removed, the hero draped it over his shoulders, wearing it as a cloak. The lion's pelt would serve as a powerful symbol of his victory, a shield that would protect him in future battles. The hero, now wearing the skin of the lion, returned to the city and presented the pelt to the king. The king, upon seeing the lion's massive hide, was struck with awe and fear. The beast that had terrorized the land for so long was now dead, and the hero had brought peace to the region. The hero's victory over the Nemean Lion was celebrated far and wide. The lion's hide became one of the hero's most iconic symbols, a mark of his strength and courage. In the years that followed, statues and paintings of the hero and the lion were created to commemorate the great battle. The hero's feat was immortalized in works of art, and the lion became a symbol of the hero's triumph over seemingly impossible odds. In the temple of Zeus at Olympia, a painting of the hero's exploits against the Nemean Lion was displayed, a reminder of the hero's victory and the power of his strength. The lion, once a terror of the land, was now a symbol of the hero's greatness. Even after the lion's death, its legacy lived on, becoming a part of the hero's story and a testament to his courage. The Nemean Lion story was retold in various forms throughout the centuries. Some writers even claimed that the lion had been born from the moon, a gift from the goddess Selene to punish the people of Nemea. Others said that the lion had been created by the wrath of Hera, who had sent it to plague the land as a punishment for Zeus's actions. Regardless of its origins, the lion's legacy was undeniable. It became a symbol of the hero's triumph and a reminder of the challenges that heroes must face. The hero's battle with the Nemean Lion was just the beginning of his legendary journey, but it remains one of the most famous and enduring tales in Greek mythology. Even today, the lion's image is associated with strength, bravery, and the triumph of good over evil. And so, the Nemean Lion, once a creature of terror, was forever transformed into a symbol of the hero's greatness, a tale of victory that would live on for generations to come. The Nemean Lion, a creature of immense size and power, roamed the lands of Nemea, striking fear into the hearts of all who lived there. Its hide was impervious to weapons, and no man or beast could defeat it. The lion's reign of terror was long and brutal, and it preyed upon both the people and their flocks. It was said that the lion made its home in a cave near the pass of Tretos, a narrow gap between two mountains. There it would rest after its hunts, leaving behind a trail of blood and destruction. The beast was a true terror, and no one dared to challenge it. The people of Nemea lived in constant fear, unable to defend themselves against such a powerful monster. Then, a hero came to face the lion, one who was tasked with slaying the beast, as the first of his 12 labors. Armed with only his strength, a club, and a bow, the hero sets out to find the lion and put an end to its terror. The task would prove difficult, for the lion was no ordinary beast, and its invulnerability made it a formidable opponent. The hero searched for days, tracking the lion through the mountains and valleys of Nemea. He knew that time was running out, and the longer the lion lived, the more destruction it would cause. His search finally led him to the lion's lair, where the beast lay in wait. The hero, undeterred by the lion's massive size and the threat it posed, prepared for battle. When the lion emerged from its cave, the hero was ready. He fired an arrow at the beast, but it was no use. The arrow bounced off the lion's thick, impenetrable hide. The hero quickly realized that no weapon would work against the lion, and so he discarded his bow and approached the creature with his club. With a mighty swing, he struck the lion on the head, but the blow had no effect. The lion snarled, its eyes glowing with fury, and leapt toward the hero. The two engaged in a brutal struggle, with the hero dodging the lion's deadly claws and attempting to land a blow with his club. But the lion's power was overwhelming, and the hero realized that he could not defeat the beast with brute strength alone. In a moment of inspiration, the hero decided to use the lion's own strength against it. He grappled with the lion, using his powerful arms to choke the creature. The lion fought back, thrashing and roaring in anger, but the hero held firm, squeezing tighter with every passing moment. Slowly, the lion's struggles grew weaker, and with one final effort, the hero squeezed the last breath from the beast, bringing it to the ground. The lion was dead. The hero stood victorious, his muscles aching from the intense battle, but he had succeeded where others had failed. The lion that had once terrorized the land was no more, and its reign of fear had come to an end. But the task was not over. The hero still had to remove the lion's hide, a task that proved difficult due to the creature's impenetrable skin. No knife or tool could cut through the hide, but the hero, ever resourceful, remembered the lion's claws. Using the claws, he carefully slit the skin from the beast's body. It was a grueling process, but eventually the lion's pelt was removed. The hero draped it over his shoulders, wearing it as a symbol of his victory. The lion's hide, now a cloak of strength, would serve as his shield in future battles. The hero returned to the city, carrying the lion's skin with him. The people, who had long suffered under the beast's terror, rejoiced at the hero's victory. The lion, once the source of so much suffering, had been slain, and peace had been restored to the land. The hero's triumph over the Nemean Lion became a symbol of strength and bravery, and the lion's hide became one of the hero's most iconic symbols. It would be worn as a reminder of the hero's incredible feat, and it would become a symbol of his greatness in the years to come. The lion, once a fearsome creature, had been transformed into a symbol of victory and courage. In time, the story of the Nemean Lion became one of the most famous tales in Greek mythology. It was retold by poets and bards, and its legacy lived on through the ages. The lion's death marked the beginning of the hero's legendary journey, and its hide became a lasting reminder of his strength and determination. The hero's victory over the lion was not just a personal triumph, it was a victory for all of Nemea, and it symbolized the triumph of good over evil. The Nemean Lion, once a source of fear and destruction, was now remembered as a symbol of the hero's indomitable spirit. As the lion's legacy lived on, so too did the legacy of the hero who defeated it. The lion's image, once associated with terror, was transformed into a symbol of power and resilience. The hero's battle with the Nemean Lion became the first of many challenges that he would face, and each victory would build upon the last. The lion's story was immortalized in art, from statues to paintings, and its image was forever linked to the hero's name. The lion, once a creature of darkness, had been brought down by the light of the hero's strength. The Nemean Lion's fate was sealed not only in the land, but in the heavens as well. The lion's image was placed among the stars, where it became the constellation, Leo. In the night sky, the lion would forever remain, a symbol of strength and courage. The hero's victory over the lion had earned him a place among the stars, and the constellation Leo would shine as a reminder of his bravery. The Nemean Lion, once a terror to all, had been transformed into a symbol of the hero's greatness, both on earth and in the heavens above. Orion, the mighty hunter, was born under strange and miraculous circumstances. According to one version of the myth, his birth was the result of a curious act by three great gods, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hermes, who urinated on a bull hide and buried it deep in the earth. This was done to provide a son and heir for King Hyrieus, and thus, from this unusual origin, Orion came into the world. His name is said to be derived either from the Greek word oros, meaning mountain, or from Oreos, meaning urine, a reflection of the strange way in which he came to be. Orion was not just any mortal, he was a giant, a hunter of great skill and strength, and his tale intertwined with that of many other legendary figures from the region of Boeotia. The stories of Orion mirrored those of other great hunters like Cephalos, who was seduced by the goddess Eos, or Actaeon, who met a tragic end at the hands of Artemis. Likewise, Orion's story shares similarities with that of Tityos, the earth-born giant who was also destroyed by the gods after attempting to assault a goddess. These tales of pursuit, love, and destruction painted a picture of a land filled with extraordinary beings and their struggles against the gods and fate. Orion's life was full of adventure, with each chapter revealing more about his character and his destiny. One such tale told of his time on the island of Chios, where he became infatuated with Merope, the daughter of King Oenopion. He fell deeply in love with her and sought to prove his worth by clearing the island of its wild beasts. After successfully doing so, he brought the spoils of his hunt to Merope, hoping to win her favor. However, despite his efforts, Oenopion continually deferred the marriage, which frustrated Orion greatly. One day, intoxicated and driven by his desire for the princess, Orion broke into Merope's chamber. This act of violence enraged Oenopion, who in turn sought the help of Dionysus, the god of wine, to punish the mighty hunter. With the aid of satyrs, Dionysus caused Orion to fall into a deep sleep, during which Oenopion blinded him. Orion, helpless and now blind, sought an oracle's guidance to restore his sight. The oracle told him that he would regain his vision if he traveled east and exposed his eyes to the rays of the rising sun. Following this advice, Orion journeyed across the seas and eventually reached the island of Lemnos. There he met the god Hephaestus, who, feeling pity for the great hunter, gave him Sedalion, a guide to lead him on his journey. After following Sedalion's direction and exposing his eyes to the sun, Orion's sight was miraculously restored. He returned to Chios, seeking vengeance on Oenopion for the crime he had committed. However, Oenopion, fearing for his life, hid himself away, and Orion was unable to find him. Frustrated, Orion left Chios and traveled to Crete, where he became a companion and hunter for the goddess Artemis. It was there, in the wilds of Crete, that Orion's fate would take its final turn. The details of Orion's death vary across different versions of the myth. In one telling, the goddess Eos, taken with Orion's great beauty, fell in love with him and carried him away. The gods, angered by this, caused Artemis, who was often associated with hunting and the protection of chastity, to kill him with a single arrow. In another version, it is said that Artemis herself loved Orion, and Apollo, her brother, jealous of their bond, tricked her into shooting Orion with her bow. He showed her a distant target on the sea, claiming that she could not hit it, and when Artemis aimed and released her arrow, it struck Orion, killing him. Yet another account tells that Orion was killed by a scorpion, sent by the earth goddess Gaia, in response to Orion's boast that he would hunt and kill all the beasts on earth. The great hunter's death, however, was not the end of his story. His body was placed among the stars by the gods, becoming the constellation known as Orion, where it remains to this day. His story continued to be told for generations, and the mighty hunter's image became synonymous with the stars in the sky, a constant reminder of his strength and the tragic nature of his fate. Orion's place in the night sky was not only a testament to his greatness, but also a symbol of his eternal connection to the heavens. His image as a hunter, eternally chasing the stars, was etched into the sky for all to see. The constellation of Orion, with his belt of 3 stars, became one of the most recognizable in the night sky, and it was said that his position marked the changing of the seasons. The story of Orion's rise and fall was often compared to the stories of other great hunters and heroes, each of whom had their own tragic fate intertwined with their strength and ambition. In addition to his connection to Artemis and Apollo, the hunter's myth was linked to other celestial figures. His death, particularly in relation to the scorpion, also gave rise to the constellation Scorpius, which opposes Orion in the sky. The 2 constellations, one rising as the other sets, were seen as eternal rivals, locked in a cosmic struggle that symbolized the eternal battle between life and death, fate and free will. Over time, Orion's myth became a rich tapestry of stories, blending themes of love, revenge, pride and fate. His death, brought about by both his hubris and the intervention of the gods, served as a reminder of the dangers of overreaching, of attempting to conquer forces beyond one's control. Yet, despite his tragic end, Orion's memory lived on, not only in the myths, but in the stars themselves. He became a symbol of the strength and ambition of heroes, but also of the inevitability of their downfall. The hunter, who once roamed the earth with unmatched power and skill, was now immortalized in the sky, forever a part of the celestial landscape. As the stars of Orion shine brightly every night, they tell the story of a hero whose fate was written in the stars, a tale that would be passed down through the ages. The tale of Orion, the great hunter, is filled with twists and turns that have made him one of the most intriguing figures in Greek mythology. His death and the stories surrounding it vary depending on who tells the tale, but they all contribute to the larger-than-life image of this legendary figure. One of the most famous versions of his death involves a tragic mistake made by Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, and her brother Apollo. In one telling, Orion, intoxicated by his own pride and strength, challenged Artemis to a game of discus. Some versions say he boasted that he could conquer every animal on earth, including the most fearsome creatures. His arrogance and overconfidence angered the gods, and they sent a monstrous scorpion to destroy him. As Orion lay down to rest after a day of hunting, the scorpion attacked him, fatally stinging him and bringing his life to an end. This version of the story explains the eternal rivalry between Orion and the Scorpion, two constellations that chase each other across the night sky. When one rises, the other sets, and vice versa. Another version suggests that Orion, in his arrogance, threatened to clear the earth of all wild beasts, causing Gaia, the earth goddess, to send the deadly scorpion that ended his life. But not all accounts of Orion's death are as straightforward. Some tell of his improper love for Artemis herself, with him attempting to seduce the goddess. In these versions, it was Artemis who, either jealous or angered by his advances, killed him with a single arrow. The stories vary further, with some claiming that the gods had punished Artemis for being too close to the hunter, forcing her to take the life of one she had once considered a companion. According to one of the more poetic accounts, it was Apollo, her brother, who set the stage for Orion's tragic end. As the story goes, Apollo was jealous of the attention his sister gave to Orion, and in an attempt to prove that she was not as skilled with a bow as he was, tricked Artemis into shooting Orion while he swam out at sea. In his blind attempt to show her up, Apollo's trick led to the death of the hunter, who had been completely unaware of the impending doom. Whether through a monstrous scorpion or a misguided shot from Artemis herself, Orion met his tragic end under different circumstances, depending on the storyteller. Despite the confusion surrounding his death, Orion's legacy did not end with his fall. His remarkable strength and beauty, as well as his association with the stars, ensured that he would live on in the night sky. After his death, the gods placed Orion among the stars, where he became one of the most recognizable constellations. As a symbol of his once mighty presence on Earth, Orion is often depicted with a girdle, sword, and a lion skin draped over his shoulders, all signs of his great accomplishments and strength. The constellation Orion, with its distinct belt of 3 stars, has been seen for centuries as a powerful symbol of the hunter who conquered both beasts and gods, only to fall to a cruel trick of fate. Homer, in his Iliad and Odyssey, references Orion and his place among the stars. He describes Orion as a powerful figure who towers among the constellations, his strength immortalized for all to see. The constellation of Orion is often associated with the Pleiades and the Hyades, the two clusters of stars that also appear in the sky. Orion's image in the stars became a symbol of might and dominance in the heavens, a constant reminder of his once great reign over the earth. In the Iliad, Homer also mentions the star Sirius, known as the Dog Star, which follows Orion across the sky, shining brighter than any other star. This star, though a sign of greatness, is also linked with the ill omen of fever and misfortune, often seen as an omen of death and disease. Despite his death, Orion's legacy lived on in the heavens. The myth of his tragic end, intertwined with his rise to the stars, was passed down through generations, and his story became a key part of the Greek mythological tradition. Over time, Orion's story was celebrated in various forms of art, literature, and even through the stars themselves. His image as a mighty hunter, one whose arrogance led to his downfall, was immortalized not only in the constellations, but in the hearts and minds of those who heard his tale. The significance of Orion's story did not end with his tragic death. His rise to the stars ensured that his name and image would never be forgotten. The people of ancient Greece often looked to the stars to explain the events of their lives, and Orion's place in the sky was seen as a powerful reminder of human ambition and the consequences of overreaching. His tale became a symbol of the dangers of hubris, showing that even the mightiest could fall. It also represented the unyielding nature of fate, as even someone as strong and capable as Orion could not escape the twist of destiny. Even the stories surrounding his parentage and birthplace were filled with mystery and contradiction. Some say that Orion was the son of Poseidon and Euryale, while others claim that he was born of Gaia, the earth itself, or even that he was the son of King Oenopion. His birth, like his death, was surrounded by uncertainty, but this only added to the mystique of his character. Whether a divine offspring or a mortal king's son, Orion was a figure that transcended his origins, becoming a legendary hero in his own right. Orion's tomb, said to be located at Tanagra, was a site of reverence and awe. The people of Tanagra, in particular, honored the memory of the great hunter, and his place among the stars was a constant reminder of his power and his tragic end. His image, not just as a hunter, but as a tragic figure who fell prey to the very fate he had sought to conquer, has echoed through the ages. Even today, the constellation Orion is a symbol of human strength, ambition, and the eternal struggle between life and death. His tale is a reminder that no matter how great one may be, fate is often beyond their control. Orion, the mighty hunter, was born under unusual circumstances that seemed to set the stage for the extraordinary life he would lead. Some said he was the son of Poseidon and Euryale, the daughter of Minos, while others claimed his birth was the result of a unique act involving the gods Zeus, Poseidon, and Hermes, who urinated on a bull hide and buried it in the earth, causing the birth of this great hunter. Orion's early life and deeds were just as remarkable as his birth. He was known for his immense strength and unmatched skills in hunting. As he grew, his feats became legendary, and he became a figure of great power and prowess. However, despite his greatness, his story was also filled with tragedy, much of which came about because of his relationships with the gods and the jealousies that arose from them. One of the most well-known myths surrounding Orion's life was his relationship with Eos, the goddess of the dawn. Eos, with her rosy fingers, had fallen in love with the mighty hunter, and for a time she sought to be with him. However, the gods, living in ease and comfort, were filled with jealousy at this union. In their envy, Artemis, the goddess of the hunt and a protector of chastity, was sent to put an end to it. Dressed in her cloth of gold, Artemis visited Orion, and with her gentle but deadly arrows, killed him in Ortygia. This act was a tragic one, as it marked the end of the great hunter's life, yet also underscored the constant tension between the gods and their chosen mortals. The death of Orion was not the end of his legacy. Though he had been slain by Artemis, his name lived on through the stars. As Homer recounts in the Odyssey, Orion was known for his great stature and beauty, unmatched by all except the giants Otos and Ephialtes. In the underworld, where the shades of the dead wander, Odysseus glimpses the mighty hunter once more, this time as a ghost, driving wild beasts across the field of asphodel. Even in death, Orion was remembered for his strength and his connection to the wild, and his story continued to echo throughout the world of the living. The gods, recognizing his valor and importance, placed him among the stars as a constellation. His image as a giant with a girdle, sword, lion skin, and club became immortalized in the heavens, and Orion's place in the sky was a symbol of his greatness. Hesiod, in his astronomy, tells another version of Orion's story. According to this version, Orion was born with the power to walk upon the waves, a gift from his divine father Poseidon. After he arrived on Chios, he became involved in a tragic incident with Merope, the daughter of Oenopion. Drunk and overcome with desire, Orion violated Merope, and in response, Oenopion, furious at the crime, blinded the mighty hunter and cast him out of the land. With no sight, Orion wandered the earth as a beggar until he found his way to Lemnos, where he met Hephaestus, the god of the forge. Hephaestus, feeling pity for the blind hunter, gave him his servant Sedalion to guide him. Orion, carrying Sedalion on his shoulders, followed the guidance of the servant, eventually reaching the east, where he encountered Helios, the sun god. By exposing his eyes to the rising sun, Orion regained his sight. With his vision restored, Orion sought out Oenopion for revenge, but the king had hidden himself away underground. Disappointed in his search, Orion left Chios and traveled to Crete, where he spent his time hunting with Artemis and Leto, the goddess of motherhood. Orion's time on Crete was marked by another boastful claim that would lead to his demise. He declared that he would hunt down and kill every beast on the earth. This act of arrogance angered the earth goddess Gaia, and in retaliation, she sent a massive scorpion to kill the great hunter. The scorpion stung Orion, and the poison from the sting was fatal. The death of Orion was mourned by the gods, but they also honored him by placing him among the stars, ensuring that his legacy would live on forever. The scorpion, too, was immortalized in the sky as the constellation Scorpius, a constant reminder of the great hunter's downfall and the punishment for his pride. In some accounts, it is said that after Orion's death, the gods took pity on him and granted him a place among the stars because of his manliness and strength. At the request of Artemis and Leto, Zeus decided to immortalize Orion in the sky, a final tribute to the hunter who had once roamed the earth with such power and courage. The constellation of Orion became one of the most recognizable in the night sky, its 3 stars forming the famous belt of Orion. The image of the hunter with his sword and club forever reminded the people of the hero's incredible abilities, even after his death. Despite the tragedy of his death, Orion's story did not fade into obscurity. The stars continued to shine with his name, and the myth of his life and death lived on through generations. In addition to his place among the stars, his tomb was said to be located at Tanagra, where the people paid homage to the great hunter. The tales of his life, filled with both triumph and tragedy, were retold in various forms, each telling of his strength, his beauty, and his fateful encounter with the gods. Orion's story serves as a reminder of the consequences of pride, the challenges of fate, and the eternal struggle between mortal beings and the divine. The stories of Orion, like those of many other heroes in Greek mythology, are a blend of wonder, caution, and respect for the forces that govern the world. His life and death are marked by the themes of ambition, love, vengeance, and the unforgiving power of the gods. Through the constellations, Orion's legacy continues to watch over the night sky, a symbol of both the heights of human achievement and the depths of divine retribution. His place in the heavens serves as an eternal reminder of the fleeting nature of life and the enduring power of the stars. Orion, a giant hunter of immense strength and beauty, was born from the earth itself. According to one version of the myth, his mighty feats soon became the stuff of legend, and his fame spread far and wide. Some say his father was Poseidon, the god of the seas, and his mother Euryale, a daughter of Minos, while others claim he was the son of Gaia, the earth, or even of Enopion, a king in the region of Chios. Despite the varying stories of his parentage, what remained constant was Orion's towering presence. He was not just a hunter, but a figure of strength, capable of walking on water, thanks to his divine heritage. His life, however, was far from peaceful, filled with both incredible triumphs and tragic downfalls. Orion's early exploits were marked by his pursuit of the most dangerous creatures on Earth. His feats of strength were widely admired, and he quickly became known as a hero who could bring down beasts that others would never dare to face. However, his boastful nature and his relationships with the gods led to his tragic end. One of the most famous stories surrounding Orion involves his love for Merope, the daughter of Enopion. Orion, drunk on his own arrogance, attempted to force himself upon her, and in response, Enopion had him blinded and cast out. Stricken by blindness and left to wander, Orion sought the help of Hephaestus, the god of the forge, who guided him to the rising sun. There, under the rays of Helios, his sight was restored. However, when Orion sought vengeance against Enopion, the king hid underground, and Orion's quest for retribution ended in frustration. After his eyes were restored, Orion journeyed to Crete, where he became a companion of Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. His time on Crete, however, was not without further conflict. It is said that Orion, in his pride, boasted that he would kill every beast on earth. His words angered Gaia, the earth goddess, who sent a great scorpion to destroy him. The scorpion's sting was fatal, and Orion's life was brought to a tragic end. Despite the nature of his death, the gods were moved by his strength and courage. As a result, Orion was immortalized in the night sky, where his figure can still be seen in the constellation named after him. The constellation Orion became one of the most recognizable in the sky, a giant figure with a sword and a club, representing the hunter who once roamed the earth. Orion's story, though tragic, did not end with his death. The constellation became an enduring symbol of his strength and ambition. In the heavens, Orion's image was placed among the stars, where he continues to shine as one of the most prominent figures in the night sky. The tale of his rise to the stars and his final fall became a poignant reminder of both the heights of human achievement and the inevitable consequences of hubris. His journey was celebrated in both poetry and art, with his likeness often depicted as a mighty hunter, wielding his bow and club, chasing the beasts that once terrified the world. The gods, recognizing his strength and bravery, granted him eternal life in the sky, where he would forever be remembered. His story was retold by poets from Hesiod to Pindar, and artists often depicted him as a giant with a belt of 3 stars, his sword at his side, and a lion's skin draped over his shoulders. The tales surrounding Orion's life were diverse, with some versions of the myth emphasizing his love for Artemis, while others focused on his role as a protector of the earth from wild beasts. Some poets, like Callimachus, even suggested that Orion's death was caused by his attempt to woo Artemis, challenging her with a game of discus. But no matter the cause, Orion's fall was always tied to his great pride and his perceived overstepping of divine boundaries. The gods, jealous and quick to punish, brought an end to his life, but in the end, it was the stars that immortalized him. In the night sky, Orion is often depicted as following the Pleiades, the 7 sisters, through the heavens, always chasing them but never quite catching them. His image as a hunter, eternally in pursuit, reflects the constant drive of his ambition and his quest to conquer all that he faced. Even in death, Orion's story served as a cautionary tale of the consequences of overreaching and the pride that often leads to downfall. In the sky, however, he remains a symbol of strength, a hero whose deeds were so great that even the gods could not erase his legacy. His place among the stars ensures that he will never be forgotten, that his tale of might, ambition, and tragedy will live on for generations to come. The gods, after his death, placed Orion's image among the stars not just as a tribute to his strength, but as a reminder of the consequences of ambition. While some may have viewed him as a tragic figure, others saw in his story the embodiment of the hero's journey, the rise, the triumph, the fall, and ultimately the immortality that comes with a legacy well earned. His constellations, ever shining in the night sky, stand as an eternal monument to the hunter who sought to conquer all, only to find that his greatest challenge was with the gods themselves. And so Orion, though he was struck down in the prime of his life, lives on, immortalized not only in the heavens, but in the hearts and minds of all who look up at the night sky and remember his story. Orion, the giant hunter, was known not just for his mighty strength, but for his powerful connection to the world around him. The myths surrounding his life were as vast and varied as the stars themselves. One such tale told of Orion's time on the island of Chios, where he had fallen in love with Ero, the daughter of King Oenopion. Orion, ever the hero, sought to win her hand in marriage by clearing the island of its wild beasts. The island, once full of dangerous creatures, became a peaceful place thanks to Orion's efforts. As a gift to Ero, Orion brought much spoils from his hunt, eager to present them to her father in the hopes of securing her as his bride. However, King Oenopion had no intention of allowing such a mighty man to marry his daughter. He feared Orion's power and constantly delayed the marriage, hoping to prevent it from happening. Frustrated and driven by his own desires, Orion, one night in a drunken rage, broke into the chamber where Ero lay sleeping and attempted to force himself upon her. This action sparked great anger in Oenopion, who, in his fury, blinded Orion with a burning brand and cast him out of the land. Blinded and abandoned, Orion wandered, now helpless, until he sought out the god Hephaestus, who took pity on the mighty hunter. Hephaestus gave him Sedalion, a servant, to guide him on his journey, and together they travelled east. After reaching the land where the sun rises, Orion exposed his eyes to the rays of Helios, the sun god, and his sight was restored. With his vision returned, Orion's first action was to seek revenge on Oenopion. However, the king had hidden himself away in a house built by Hephaestus, buried deep underground. Frustrated and unable to find the king, Orion eventually left Chios and travelled to Crete, where he became a companion to Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. There, Orion was not only a hunter, but also a protector of the wilds, hunting alongside Artemis and Leto, her mother. Despite the peace he found in Crete, Orion's fate was once again sealed by his arrogance. In one version of the myth, Orion boasted that he could rid the world of every beast, claiming that he would kill every creature on earth. This boast was his undoing, as it angered the earth goddess Gaia, who sent a giant scorpion to strike him down. The scorpion, though much smaller than the mighty hunter, proved to be Orion's match. It stung him fatally, and thus the great hunter met his end. In other versions, Orion's death is more directly caused by the angers of Artemis herself, who either killed him for his boastfulness or out of jealousy. Some say he was killed for attempting to woo her, or for causing harm to a maiden named Upis. Regardless of the version, the scorpion's sting or Artemis's arrow marked the end of Orion's life, but his legend did not end with his death. The gods, moved by his strength and tragic fate, immortalized Orion by placing him among the stars. The constellation of Orion, recognizable by his belt of 3 stars, became one of the most famous and visible constellations in the night sky. Orion's image in the heavens was meant to honor his strength, his hunting prowess, and his tragic fall. The story of Orion's life and death was told in many forms across different cultures, with each version emphasizing different aspects of his character and fate. The myth of the hunter who challenged the gods and paid the price for his pride became a powerful reminder of the consequences of hubris. In addition to the constellation, some myths surrounding Orion's death linked it to the movements of the stars. When the constellation of Scorpio rises in the east, Orion is said to flee from it in the west, as the two are locked in a celestial battle. The rising of Scorpio, which symbolizes the deadly scorpion sent by Gaia, serves as a reminder of Orion's downfall. The eternal chase between these two constellations reflects the eternal struggle between life and death, and the cosmic punishment that came from Orion's pride and ambition. His story was a lesson for all who heard it. No matter how strong or mighty one may be, the gods could strike down even the greatest heroes for their arrogance. Hesiod, in his Works and Days, makes reference to Orion and his place in the heavens, alongside other constellations like the Pleiades and the Hyades. These groups of stars were often used by ancient Greeks to mark the passage of time and the seasons. When Orion and the Pleiades rose together in the night sky, it was a sign for the farmers to plough the fields. But when the Pleiades sank into the misty sea, it signified the end of the favorable season for sailing. Orion, being associated with both the hunter and the changing seasons, became a symbol of the power of nature and the eternal cycle of life and death. His place in the sky, rising and setting, marked the changing of the seasons and the inevitable passage of time. Despite his tragic death, Orion's legacy lived on through his many accomplishments. The mighty hunter was remembered for his strength and courage, and his deeds were immortalized in the constellations. His story was not only about the pride that led to his downfall, but also about the extraordinary feats he accomplished in his life. His adventures and battles against beasts and gods became legendary, and his image as a giant hunter persisted through the ages. The myth of Orion was retold in various forms across the centuries, each telling of his bravery, his faults, and his ultimate reward. The stars. Orion's final resting place was in the heavens, where he could continue his eternal hunt, forever chasing the stars. His figure, with his distinctive belt and his lion skin, became a symbol of strength, a reminder of the hero who could never truly die. Even as his mortal form had been struck down, his place in the stars ensured that his story would never fade, and the legacy of Orion the Hunter would shine down upon the earth for all to see, forever entwined with the constellations and the cycles of the seasons. The myth of Orion was not just a tale of a hero's fall, but a reminder of the power of ambition, the wrath of the gods, and the enduring nature of a hero's legacy. Even in death, Orion's name lived on, forever immortalized in the stars above. Orion, the mighty hunter, was a figure of legend, his story woven into the very fabric of the stars above. His birth, according to some versions of the myth, was a miraculous event. The gods Zeus, Poseidon, and Hermes visited King Hyrieus in Thrace, where they were treated with great hospitality. In gratitude for his kindness, the gods promised to grant Hyrieus anything he desired. The king, longing for a child, asked for a son, and so the gods provided him with one in the most extraordinary way. After sacrificing a bull to the gods, Hermes took the hide, and the three gods urinated on it and buried it in the earth. From this strange and magical act, Orion was born, a giant with immense strength and unparalleled hunting skills. Orion's strength and fame spread far and wide. He became known not only for his hunting prowess, but also for his tremendous feats of physical power. One of his most significant achievements was his involvement in the creation of the straits between Sicily and Italy, a feat attributed to his immense strength. Some stories tell that Orion, with his godly might, built the headland that lies at Pelorus, and even erected a sanctuary for Poseidon, which became an important and honored site among the people. After completing these monumental tasks, Orion left for Euboea, where he made his home and continued to be celebrated for his heroism. His fame did not go unnoticed by the gods, and eventually he was immortalized in the stars. Orion's place among the stars was not just a reward for his earthly deeds, but also a way for the gods to honor his strength and unyielding spirit. The stars that now bear his name shine brightly in the sky, a permanent testament to his legacy. In the Odyssey, Homer describes Orion as one of the great heroes who remained in the underworld after his death. In the dark, desolate meadows of Asphodel, Orion could still be seen driving wild beasts, the very ones he had hunted and slain on the lonely hills during his life. His mighty form was ever present, his hands gripping a bronze mace that was unbreakable, a symbol of his undying strength. His image as a giant hunter, forever chasing after the beasts of the underworld, reflected both his power and the tragic nature of his fate. Orion's story is also tied to his encounters with the other constellations, especially the Pleiades. The Pleiades, a group of 7 nymphs, were often said to flee from Orion, forever chased by his towering presence. This eternal chase became a fixture in the night sky, with the Pleiades sinking into the waters of the Oceanus when Orion pursued them too closely. The myth reflected not only Orion's pursuit of the Pleiades, but also the themes of longing, pursuit, and escape, symbolizing the cycle of the hunter and the hunted. But despite his fame and power, Orion's life was marked by tragic flaws, and his story became one of ambition, jealousy, and divine retribution. In one version of the myth, Orion's pride and desire led him to attempt to violate Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. This action angered the goddess, and in some accounts, she took matters into her own hands, either killing him directly or sending a monstrous scorpion to defeat him. The scorpion, a powerful creature sent by Gaia, killed Orion with a fatal sting, bringing an end to the life of the great hunter. However, some versions of the myth say that Artemis was directly involved in Orion's death, either killing him herself or punishing him for his arrogance. This act of divine intervention ensured that Orion's story was not just one of glory and victory, but one of downfall and fate's inevitable power. After his death, Orion's image was forever fixed in the sky, where he continues to stand as a giant hunter. His constellation, known for its distinctive belt, is one of the most recognizable in the heavens. The sight of Orion in the night sky became a symbol of both strength and the fragility of human ambition. The stars of Orion served as a reminder of the hero who had once walked the earth, hunting beasts and defying the gods, only to be struck down by his own pride. The stars that once adorned Orion's belt and his mighty figure in the sky were reminders of both his power and his tragic end. Orion's death, however, was not the end of his legacy. Even after he was slain, his image continued to shine in the heavens, symbolizing the eternal nature of his achievements and the immortality of his story. His place among the stars was a recognition of his might, and the constellation became a constant presence in the night sky. Just as Orion had pursued the Pleiades and chased after the wild beasts of the earth, he continued to chase across the sky, never resting, always striving for greatness. The story of Orion, with its themes of strength, ambition, and tragic fall, became a cornerstone of Greek mythology. His tale was told and retold through the ages, a reminder of the power and fragility of heroes. Even as a hunter, Orion was never truly free from the god's judgment. His ambition led to his downfall, but it also ensured his place among the stars, where his image would endure forever. The gods, who had once punished him for his pride, immortalized him in the heavens, making him a permanent part of the night sky. Throughout time, various poets and writers have celebrated Orion's legacy, from his birth to his untimely death, and his place in the sky continues to captivate those who look up at the stars. As the constellation Orion rises in the east, it signals the changing of the seasons, reminding those who see it of the mighty hunter who once walked the earth, defied the gods, and was forever immortalized in the heavens. His story, though marked by tragedy, remains a testament to the strength and ambition of heroes and the enduring power of myth. Orion, the great hunter, was born under extraordinary circumstances. The story of his birth begins when a man named Heracles, who lived in Boeotia, asked the gods for a child. He had no heirs, and so, to fulfill his wish, the gods came to him. Zeus, Hermes, and Poseidon, in gratitude for his hospitality, agreed to grant his request. They told him to sacrifice an ox and to remove its hide. Following their instructions, Heracles buried the ox hide in the earth, and from this act, the mighty Orion was born. As he grew, Orion became known not only for his immense strength, but also for his extraordinary skills as a hunter. He was unmatched in his ability to track and bring down even the fiercest beasts, and his fame spread far and wide. However, Orion's life was not just one of triumph and glory. He had a great many adventures, some of which were filled with tragedy. One of the most famous tales tells of Orion's pursuit of the Pleiades, a group of 7 nymphs who were daughters of the Titan Atlas and the Ocean Pleione. As they traveled through Boeotia, Orion, struck by their beauty, tried to force his advances upon Pleione. To escape him, she fled, and for 7 years Orion chased after her, unable to catch her. In an effort to protect the nymphs from Orion's relentless pursuit, Zeus took pity on them and transformed them into stars. The stars of the Pleiades were placed in the sky, and to this day, Orion is seen chasing them across the heavens. The constellation of Orion, with his towering figure and his belt of 3 stars, follows the Pleiades as they move westward in the sky. But Orion's arrogance was his undoing. He boasted that he could kill any creature on Earth, even the fiercest beasts. This claim angered the Earth goddess Gaia, who, in her wrath, sent a monstrous scorpion to kill the great hunter. The scorpion, a fierce and determined creature, attacked Orion, stinging him fatally. Though Orion was a giant in strength and a master of the hunt, he was no match for the scorpion's deadly sting. After his death, Zeus, impressed by both Orion's courage and Gaia's power, decided to immortalize them both. Orion was placed among the stars, where his constellation was placed in the sky for all to see. The scorpion, too, was given a place in the heavens as the constellation Scorpius. The 2 constellations, forever linked by their celestial rivalry, are positioned so that when Scorpio rises in the east, Orion sets in the west, ensuring that the hunter and the scorpion are never seen together in the sky at the same time. The tale of Orion and the scorpion serves as a cautionary reminder of the dangers of pride and overconfidence. While Orion's strength and skill as a hunter made him legendary, it was his boasting and his disregard for the power of the gods that led to his downfall. His death at the hands of the scorpion symbolizes the balance of power in the universe, a reminder that no mortal, no matter how mighty, can defy the forces of nature and the gods without consequence. The 2 constellations, Orion and Scorpius, stand as eternal reminders of this cosmic struggle. Orion's legend was further immortalized in the heavens. Some versions of his story say that he was also a protector of the Earth's animals, ensuring that no creature was left unchallenged. The constellations associated with Orion were not just representations of his life, but also symbols of his constant battle against the forces of nature. In one tale, Orion is depicted hunting a hare, symbolizing his role as a hunter, though some critics argue that such a noble figure as Orion should not be depicted hunting such small creatures. In other accounts, he is seen fighting the bull, another great creature of the earth, showcasing his prowess as a warrior and a protector. Hesiod, the ancient Greek poet, adds another layer to Orion's story, stating that Orion was the son of Poseidon and Euryale. He was granted the ability to walk upon the waves, just as other heroes were gifted with abilities that allowed them to transcend the limits of mere mortals. Orion's extraordinary talents were not just confined to the land, but extended to the seas, where he could move with the same ease as he did on solid ground. His connection to both the earth and the sea made him a unique and powerful figure in Greek mythology. In addition to his physical strength and prowess, Orion was also associated with the construction of great works. In the region of Sicily, he was said to have built the harbour of Zancli, now Messene, creating a mole and shaping the Arctic promontory. His acts of construction were just as significant as his deeds of hunting, further cementing his place in the mythological history of Greece. These great works were a testament to his enduring legacy, showing that Orion's influence reached far beyond his time as a hunter. Orion's legacy lived on, not only in the stories told about him, but also in the very landscape of the world he once inhabited. His physical strength and his godly gifts ensured that he was remembered as one of the greatest heroes in Greek mythology. Yet, his story was also one of tragic flaws, showing that even the mightiest heroes could fall prey to their own arrogance and the wrath of the gods. The story of Orion was retold through the ages, with each retelling adding a new layer to his already complex myth. His tail became a symbol of both human achievement and the inevitable consequences of overreach. In the end, Orion's place among the stars ensured that his name would never be forgotten. The constellation bearing his name continues to shine brightly in the night sky, a reminder of the great hunter who once walked the earth, bringing down beasts and performing feats that no other mortal could match. His journey from a hero of the earth to an immortal figure in the stars serves as a lasting tribute to his power and his tragic end. Forever chasing the stars, Orion's story endures not just as a tale of glory, but as a reminder of the delicate balance between mortals and the divine. Orion, the mighty hunter, was a figure of great renown, known for his strength, beauty, and legendary hunting skills. His origin, however, was marked by an unusual and somewhat mystical beginning. Some say that Orion's name came from the event of his birth. For the gods, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hermes performed a strange act that resulted in his creation. They urinated on the hide of a bull and buried it in the earth, and from this Orion was born. His charm, affability, and prowess soon made him famous, and he earned the name Orion, a title given not just for his strength, but for the legend that followed him. Orion's early life and adventures took him far from his birthplace, and one of his first great journeys was to the island of Chios. There he encountered Merope, the daughter of the king, Oenopion. Orion, fueled by wine and desire, attempted to force himself on her. This act of violence did not go unnoticed, and Oenopion, enraged by the crime, took matters into his own hands. He had Orion blinded and cast out of the island, leaving the once mighty hunter helpless. Though stripped of his sight, Orion's determination did not waver, and he sought a way to regain his vision and take vengeance on Oenopion. Orion's journey led him to the island of Lemnos, where he found the god Hephaestus, who, moved by pity for the blind hunter, gave him a guide named Sedalion. Carrying Sedalion on his shoulders, Orion traveled east, eventually reaching the rising sun, where the sun god Helios healed him. His sight restored, Orion returned to Chios to confront Oenopion, but the king had hidden himself away in a house built deep underground, where Orion could not reach him. Disheartened by his failure to find the king, Orion left Chios and traveled to Crete, where he began hunting with Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. While on Crete, Orion's pride became his downfall once again. He boasted that he could rid the world of all beasts, claiming that no creature could escape his might. This arrogant boast angered Gaia, the earth goddess, who sent a great scorpion to defeat Orion. The scorpion, though smaller than the mighty hunter, was relentless and eventually stung Orion fatally, ending his life. However, some versions of the myth tell a different tale. In one version, Artemis herself, moved by affection for the hunter, killed him with an arrow. Some stories suggest that she did this out of jealousy or to protect the world from his prideful actions. The death of Orion was a significant event, and after his death, the gods placed him among the stars, immortalizing his legacy in the heavens. Orion's place in the sky became one of the most famous constellations, his figure depicted as a giant with a belt of 3 stars, a sword at his side, and a lion's skin draped over his shoulders. The stars of Orion became a symbol of both strength and tragedy, representing the hunter who sought to conquer all, only to be struck down by the gods. His story, one of ambition, arrogance, and divine retribution, lived on in the stars above, a constant reminder of the price of hubris and the unforgiving power of the divine. Alongside Orion, the constellations of his dog Canis Major and Prosan, the smaller dog, were also placed in the sky. These two constellations followed Orion across the heavens, forever marking his connection to the hunt. The presence of these constellations alongside Orion in the sky symbolized the loyalty and companionship of his hunting dogs. The tales of these dogs were tied to the stories of Orion's pursuits and his role as a protector of the Earth's creatures. Some believe that the rising of Procyon, the foredog, indicated that Orion was hunting, chasing his prey across the sky, always in pursuit. These constellations helped keep Orion's legacy alive, as his story and the stories of his companions became a part of the mythological landscape, forever etched in the stars. But Orion's place in the heavens also held a deeper meaning. His image as a hunter, constantly chasing after the Pleiades, the seven sisters, was symbolic of the eternal pursuit of beauty, greatness, and immortality. As the Pleiades fled from Orion's gaze, they were transformed into stars, forever pursued by the hunter who could never quite reach them. This eternal chase mirrored the unfulfilled desires and ambitions that defined Orion's life. His journey was one of ceaseless striving, always reaching for something just out of reach, until fate and the gods intervened to bring an end to his pursuit. In one version of the myth, it is said that Orion's connection to the stars was not just a reward for his strength and bravery, but also a way for the gods to teach a lesson about pride and self-confidence. After his boastful claim that he could rid the world of all creatures, the gods punished him by sending the scorpion to kill him, and in the process, the scorpion too was immortalized in the sky. This act of divine retribution was meant to remind mortals of the danger of overestimating one's power, especially when it comes to defying the gods. The cosmic struggle between Orion and the scorpion, constantly chasing one another across the sky, serves as a reminder that even the mightiest can fall, and that the forces of nature and the gods are always more powerful than any mortal. Orion's legacy also extended to the myths surrounding his daughters, Meteuke and Menepi, who are said to be the offspring of the giant hunter. According to some accounts, after his death, his daughters were transformed into comets by Persephone, further linking Orion's story to the stars and the cosmic forces that govern the world. The connection between Orion and his family only strengthened his association with the heavens, as his story continued to unfold not just on Earth but in the stars above. The myth of Orion serves as a reminder of the fine line between greatness and downfall. His story was not just about a great hunter who achieved incredible feats, but also about the price of pride, the consequences of defying the gods, and the eternal nature of ambition. His place in the stars as a giant hunter forever chasing the Pleiades ensures that his story will never fade. The constellation of Orion remains one of the most beloved in the sky, his image forever imprinted in the night, reminding all who look up at the stars of the mighty hunter whose legacy continues to live on. Orion, the great hunter, was born in an unusual and almost magical way, the result of a divine act by three gods who had come to visit King Hyrieus. Hyrieus, a kind and hospitable man, offered food and shelter to the gods, though he did not recognize their true nature. As a reward for his kindness, the gods promised him whatever he desired, and Hyrieus, feeling a deep longing, wished for a child. The gods granted his wish in a very strange manner, urinating on the hide of an ox, then burying it in the earth. From this act, the mighty Orion was born, a child who grew up to be a giant in strength, admired by all who saw him. As he grew, Orion became known for his great hunting skills, unmatched in his ability to track and defeat the fiercest beasts. Orion's early life was full of promise and strength. He was made the companion of Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, who trusted him to guard her and serve alongside her in the hunt. However, like many great heroes, Orion's pride would eventually lead to his downfall. He boasted that there was no beast on earth that he could not defeat. This arrogance, however, angered Gaia, the earth goddess. In response to Orion's boast, Gaia sent a great scorpion to defeat him. And this scorpion, though smaller than Orion, was relentless in its pursuit. The scorpion's sting struck Orion fatally, bringing an end to the great hunter's life. Orion's death was not the end of his story, though. The gods, recognizing his strength and bravery, decided to immortalize him in the stars. Orion was placed among the constellations, where he could continue his hunt forever, his image immortalized in the sky for all to see. The constellation of Orion became one of the most famous in the night sky, a symbol of his strength, ambition, and tragic end. But Orion's story was not the only one tied to the stars. The scorpion that had killed him was also given a place in the sky, forming the constellation Scorpius. The two constellations were arranged in such a way that when Scorpio rises in the east, Orion sets in the west, forever locked in a celestial struggle. The story of Orion's birth, his strength, his pride, and his ultimate downfall was passed down through generations, becoming one of the most famous tales in Greek mythology. The image of Orion, with his belt of 3 stars and his sword at his side, became an enduring symbol of strength and the tragic nature of overreaching. His connection to the stars not only marked his own greatness, but also served as a lesson for mortals about the limits of ambition and the consequences of challenging the divine. Some versions of the myth tell of Orion's connection to the island of Chios, where he had fallen in love with the daughter of King Oenopion. His desire to marry her led to a tragic event, as Orion, drunk on wine, tried to force himself upon her. In his anger, Oenopion took action, having Orion blinded and cast out from the island. This betrayal did not break Orion's spirit, however. Determined to regain his sight, Orion traveled to Lemnos, where he met Hephaestus, the god of the forge. Hephaestus took pity on him and gave him Sedalion, his servant, to guide him. With Sedalion's help, Orion made his way to the rising sun, where Helios, the sun god, healed him, restoring his sight. This miraculous healing set Orion on the path to exact vengeance on Oenopion. But when he arrived at Chios, he found that the king had hidden himself away in a house built deep underground. Unable to find Oenopion, Orion left the island and traveled to Crete, where he would join Artemis in her hunts. While on Crete, Orion's story took another dark turn. In some versions, he boasted that he could kill every beast on earth. This boast angered Gaia, who sent the deadly scorpion to kill him, and the scorpion's sting was fatal. In other versions, it was Artemis herself who, moved by jealousy or a desire to protect the balance of nature, killed Orion with her bow. Some accounts suggest that Artemis and Orion shared a close bond, but that Apollo, Artemis's brother, was jealous of their relationship. In this version, Apollo tricked Artemis into shooting Orion while he was swimming in the sea, telling her that she could not hit a distant target. Artemis, wanting to prove her skill, took aim and shot the arrow, unaware that it would strike and kill Orion. Whether through the scorpion or Artemis's arrow, Orion's life came to a tragic end, and the gods, moved by his fate, placed him among the stars. Orion's story is rich with lessons about pride, love, vengeance, and the power of the gods. His death serves as a warning about the dangers of overestimating one's power and the inevitable consequences of challenging the gods. Yet, despite his tragic fall, Orion's legacy lived on. His place among the stars ensured that his name would be remembered forever, and his story continued to inspire generations. The constellation of Orion, with its iconic belt and sword, became a symbol not just of a hunter, but of a hero who had dared to challenge the gods and paid the ultimate price. The stars that marked his figure in the sky were a reminder of his strength, his ambitions, and the fate that befell him when he overreached. The story of Orion's death and his place among the stars also highlights the eternal struggle between life and death, and the balance that must be maintained between mortals and the divine. The rivalry between Orion and the Scorpion, played out in the heavens, serves as a reminder that even the greatest of heroes are subject to the forces beyond their control. His journey from the earth to the stars became a tale of both glory and tragedy, and the constellation of Orion continues to shine as a tribute to his greatness and his fall. Orion, the mighty hunter, found himself blind after an act of violence against a woman he desired. This blind fate set him on a path of redemption and immense struggle. When the satyrs, in their wisdom, told him that he could regain his sight by traveling across the sea toward the east, he set off on an extraordinary journey. The satyrs explained that the only way to restore his vision was to journey toward the rising sun and receive the light of the sun god, Helios, whose rays would restore his lost sight. With unwavering determination, Orion ventured across the sea, despite his blindness. His journey took him toward the distant noise of the Cyclops forging the mighty thunderbolts of Zeus, a sound that filled the air with clamor and chaos. He followed the noise, hoping that the Cyclops could guide him in fulfilling the oracle's command. The Cyclops, great and powerful beings, aided Orion by sending one of their companions to climb on his shoulders and guide him to his destination. This guide helped Orion navigate the treacherous seas, and despite his blindness, Orion's massive frame was well suited for the journey. Standing tall and strong, he waded across the ocean, the water reaching only up to his body, which was of such immense size that even the depth of the sea could not slow his advance. His journey to the place where the stars are held back seemed inevitable, as if he were destined to overcome any obstacle, even the vastness of the ocean. With each step, he pushed further toward the eastern horizon, determined to fulfill the prophecy and regain his sight. Orion's size and strength were legendary, and his journey to the east reflected both his God-given abilities and his unyielding resolve. It is said that his body was so great that nothing could prevent him from reaching the place of the sun's rise, the source of his restoration. His journey, though fraught with difficulty, seemed to be powered by his determination and the favor of the gods. His story of recovery from blindness was more than just about sight. It was about the strength of will and the power of destiny that pushed Orion forward. Once Orion had reached the eastern edge of the world, he stood under the blazing rays of the sun. The warmth and light from Helios healed his eyes, restoring his sight in a miraculous way. After this, Orion returned, now seeing clearly again, to exact revenge on the king who had blinded him. However, the gods and fate had another plan for him. Despite his heroic strength and desire for retribution, Orion's life would not be without further consequences. After his sight was restored, Orion's quest for vengeance became a secondary part of his story, for he was fated to fall victim to the god's will once again. Orion's story did not end with his healing. It continued as a tale of further conflicts, driven by his pride and the anger of the gods. He boasted of his strength, declaring that there was no beast on earth that he could not defeat. This prideful declaration caught the attention of Gaia, the earth goddess, who was angered by Orion's arrogance. To punish him for his boast, Gaia sent a monstrous scorpion to strike him down. The scorpion, a creature of great power and ferocity, killed Orion, ending his life in a tragic twist. Yet even in death, Orion's legacy would live on. His powerful body and his exploits did not fade into obscurity. The gods, recognizing his strength, decided to place him among the stars, immortalizing him for all time. Orion's place in the night sky became a symbol of his greatness and his fall. His image as a giant hunter, forever chasing after the Pleiades, the seven sisters, is a reminder of his unrelenting drive, always pursuing something just beyond his reach. The constellation. Orion became one of the most iconic in the sky, his belt of 3 stars shining brightly, symbolizing his quest for glory and his tragic end. His image, holding his sword and club, stood as a beacon of power, reminding all who looked up at the night sky of the hunter, who could not escape the consequences of his pride. The tale of Orion was not just about his physical strength or his accomplishments. It also served as a lesson about the danger of overconfidence and the limits of human power. Despite his immense abilities, Orion was not immune to the wrath of the gods. His story is a reminder that no matter how great one may be, they are still subject to the forces beyond their control. His boastful declaration that he could defeat any beast led directly to his downfall, showing the danger of thinking oneself invincible. His death by the scorpion, a creature sent by the earth herself, is a powerful metaphor for the consequences of challenging the natural order and the gods. After his death, the gods placed Orion's image in the sky, where he would remain for eternity. Alongside him, they placed the constellation of the scorpion, Scorpio, as a reminder of the cosmic struggle that led to his death. The 2 constellations, Orion and Scorpio, are locked in a cosmic chase, with Orion forever pursuing the scorpion, but never able to catch it. This eternal rivalry between the 2 constellations serves as a reminder of the balance of power in the universe, where no one, no matter how mighty, can escape the forces of fate. Orion's story, like that of many great heroes, was one of ambition, pride, and the eventual acceptance of fate. His legacy lived on through the constellations, where his image continued to shine as a reminder of the man who was both mighty and fallible. Even in the afterlife, Orion's name remained known across the heavens, a hero forever chasing the stars, locked in an eternal pursuit. His tale was passed down through generations, not just as a story of glory, but as a warning about the limits of human ambition and the dangers of challenging the gods. And so, Orion's legacy lives on in the sky, a symbol of strength, pride, and the inescapable fate that awaits even the greatest of heroes. Orion, the great hunter, was a figure of immense power and influence, known for his extraordinary feats and his towering presence in both the mortal and divine realms. His story begins with a strange and miraculous birth. Born from the earth itself, Orion was the result of an unusual act by the gods, who, after being hosted by King Heracles, granted him a child as a reward for his hospitality. The gods urinated on a bull hide and buried it in the ground, and from this act, Orion was brought into the world, a child of both divine and earthly origin. His enormous size and strength were evident from the moment he came into the world, and as he grew, he became known as one of the most powerful and skilled hunters to ever walk the earth. Orion's life was marked by both extraordinary accomplishments and tragic downfalls. As a hunter, he was unmatched. able to track and kill even the fiercest beasts with ease. He was also a companion to Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, and together they roamed the wilderness, hunting and protecting the natural world. His bond with Artemis, however, would ultimately lead to his downfall. Orion's pride grew as his reputation spread. He boasted that there was no creature on earth that he could not defeat, a statement that angered Gaia, the earth goddess. In response to his arrogance, Gaia sent a monstrous scorpion to kill him, a creature that was capable of striking even the great Orion down. The scorpion's venomous sting led to Orion's death, marking the end of his life, but not his legacy. After his death, the gods, recognizing his strength and courage, decided to immortalize Orion by placing him among the stars. His constellation, visible in the night sky, became a symbol of his might and his tragic fate. The stars of Orion's belt became a constant reminder of his greatness and his flaws, his pursuit of glory and the consequences of his overconfidence. The constellation Scorpius, representing the scorpion that killed him, was also placed in the sky, locked in an eternal struggle with Orion. As one rises, the other sets, forever bound in a cosmic dance that reflects the ongoing battle between the hunter and the creature that defeated him. Throughout his life, Orion's actions were not just confined to hunting and feats of strength. He also had a complicated and tumultuous relationship with various deities, including Artemis. The myths surrounding his pursuit of the Pleiades, a group of 7 sisters, are symbolic of his never-ending chase for greatness and beauty. The Pleiades, in an attempt to escape his gaze, were turned into stars, forever fleeing from his pursuit. This celestial chase became a symbol of the hunter's unrelenting desire, always reaching for something just out of his grasp, reflecting both his ambition and the unattainable nature of his goals. The myth of Orion's relationship with Artemis, however, took a darker turn in some versions of the tale. In one story, Orion's advances toward Artemis were not as innocent as his service to her in hunting. In some accounts, he sought to force himself upon her, an action that enraged the goddess and led to his death. Artemis, who was devoted to chastity, could not allow such a violation, and in some versions of the myth, she killed Orion with her bow, punishing him for his prideful actions. His death at her hands, however, was not the end of his story. Artemis, devastated by the necessity of slaying her companion, requested that Orion be immortalized in the stars, and so he was placed among the constellations, forever remembered for his strength, his pride, and his tragic fall. Some accounts of Orion's death suggest that it was not Artemis who killed him, but Apollo, her brother. In this version, Apollo, jealous of the affection Artemis had for Orion, tricked his sister into shooting the hunter while he was swimming far off in the sea. The myth of Orion's death, no matter the version, always comes back to his overreach, his boastful nature, and the consequences of angering the gods. His tragic end became a lesson in the dangers of pride and the wrath of the divine. In addition to his hunting prowess, Orion's name and legacy were linked to various works of great significance. One such story tells of his involvement in building the harbour at Zancale, now Mycenae, a city in Sicily. The myth says that Orion, using his great strength, built the harbour and shaped the landscape, using his immense size to craft a mole and shape the Acte promontory. This act of construction further cemented his legacy as not only a great hunter, but also a figure who shaped the very world around him. Orion's connection to the stars was not just symbolic of his earthly deeds, but also represented the eternal nature of his legacy. After his death, the gods placed his image in the sky as a permanent reminder of his strength and tragic fate. The constellation of Orion became one of the most recognizable in the heavens, forever embodying the hunter who once roamed the earth, chasing greatness, and ultimately falling victim to his own pride. The stars that marked his belt became a beacon for travelers and adventurers, a guide to those who looked up to the heavens and remembered the great hunter who once walked the earth. The story of Orion was not just about a man who hunted and killed beasts. It was about the eternal struggle between life and death, the gods and mortals, and the consequences of ambition. Orion's life was a testament to the might of heroes, but his downfall served as a warning to all who would follow in his footsteps. His pride and his arrogance led him to challenge the gods, and for that, he paid the ultimate price. His death, however, did not erase his legacy. Instead, it ensured that he would be remembered forever, a hero whose name lived on in the stars. The story of Orion continues to inspire, reminding all who gaze upon the night sky of the power of ambition, the dangers of hubris, and the enduring legacy of those who dare to reach for the stars.